I've observed about people who changed their lives. It's not that they felt ready. It's not that circumstances aligned perfectly. It's not even that they had all the answers. What separated them from everyone else was a singular moment, a moment where they decided that waiting was no longer an option. They pushed past every excuse, every fear, every logical reason to delay, and they moved. I want to talk to you about something that has destroyed more destinies than failure ever could. It's not poverty. It's not lack of education. It's not even bad decisions. It's something far more subtle, far more dangerous. It's the art of waiting for the perfect moment. It's the comfort of planning without executing. It's the prison of analysis without action. Think about this deeply. How many brilliant ideas have died in the graveyard of someday? How many relationships have withered because someone waited for the perfect time to say the right words? How many businesses never launched because the plan wasn't quite perfect enough? How many books remained unwritten because the author was waiting to feel inspired? The truth that nobody wants to hear is this: action is not the result of motivation. Action creates motivation. You don't wait until you feel like doing something. You do it and the feeling follows. This is the secret that separates those who build empires from those who dream about them. Let me tell you about a man I know. For 8 years, he worked in a job that slowly drained the life out of him. Every morning, he would wake up with a knot in his stomach. He had a business idea, a vision that kept him awake at night with excitement and possibility. He had sketched out plans, researched the market, talked to potential partners. His spreadsheets were immaculate. His projections were conservative yet promising. Everything was ready. Everything except one thing: him. He kept waiting. Waiting for the right economy. Waiting for his savings to reach a certain number. Waiting for his children to reach a certain age. Waiting to feel less afraid. 8 years of waiting. 8 years of watching others with inferior ideas and less preparation succeed, while he remained stuck in the starting blocks. Then one day, something shifted. It wasn't that circumstances changed. It wasn't that he suddenly had more money or more time. What changed was internal. He realized that he was using preparation as a form of procrastination. He was using wisdom as a mask for fear. He understood that all his waiting had been nothing but a sophisticated delay tactic. He quit his job on a Tuesday, not a special Tuesday, not the beginning of a month or the start of a year. Just a random Tuesday. Within 6 months, his business was generating more income than his salary had provided. Within 2 years, he had employed 17 people. But here's what he told me that struck me deeply. The business didn't succeed because I was finally ready. It succeeded because I finally moved. And in moving, I discovered capabilities I never knew I had. This is the revelation I needed to grasp. You don't become ready by waiting. You become ready by starting. Your capabilities don't reveal themselves in the planning room. They reveal themselves in the arena. Your strength doesn't grow in the comfort of certainty. It grows in the wilderness of risk. There's a phenomenon I've witnessed repeatedly. People treat their lives like a rehearsal. They live as if there's a practice version and then a real version that comes later. They save their best clothes for special occasions that never quite arrive. They save their boldest ideas for when they have more experience. They save their deepest love for when they feel more secure. They save their greatest effort for when conditions are ideal. But life doesn't work that way. There is no rehearsal. This is it. This moment right here, right now, this is your life happening. Every day you wait is a day you can never recover. Every opportunity you postpone might never return. Every version of yourself that you could have become is waiting on the other side of action. I've studied people extensively, not just successful people, but people across the entire spectrum of human experience. And here's what I've discovered. The difference between those who achieve and those who don't is not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not even opportunity. Is the willingness to take action before they feel ready. Think about learning to swim. You can read every book about swimming. You can watch every video. You can understand the mechanics of every stroke. You can know the physics of buoyancy and the chemistry of chlorinated water. But until you get into the water, you cannot swim. Knowledge about swimming is not swimming. And no amount of poolside preparation will ever substitute for that first terrifying plunge into the deep end. Life is the pool. Most people spend their entire existence on the edge, studying, preparing, analyzing, waiting to feel ready. They never discover that the water is where transformation happens. They never learn that the fear they're avoiding is actually the doorway to everything they want. There was a woman, a brilliant woman with a voice that could move mountains. She had this gift for speaking, for articulating complex ideas in ways that people could feel in their bones. For years, people told her she should speak publicly, write books, create content that could reach millions, but she was terrified not of failure of exposure, of being seen, of being judged. She spent years preparing. She took courses on public speaking. She hired voice coaches. She attended workshops on storytelling and persuasion. Her notebooks were filled with speeches she had written but never delivered. Her recordings were filled with talks she had practiced but never shared. One evening, her neighbor invited her to speak at a small community gathering. Nothing major, just 40 people in a church basement. She almost said no, but something, call it divine intervention, call it faith, call it a moment of temporary courage, made her say yes. She didn't prepare a new speech. She didn't have time to overthink it. She walked into that basement with knees shaking and palms sweating, and she spoke from her heart. It wasn't perfect. She stumbled over words. She forgot parts of what she wanted to say. But something happened in that room. People wept. People laughed. People came up to her afterward with tears in their eyes, telling her how her words had touched something deep inside them. That evening changed her life. Not because it led to immediate fame or fortune. It changed her life because it broke the spell of perfectionism that had held her captive. She realized that impact doesn't require perfection. It requires authenticity and action. Within a year, she had spoken to thousands. Within 3 years, she had written 2 books. Within 5 years, her voice had reached millions. But here's the crucial detail. None of that would have happened if she had waited until she felt ready. She would still be in her living room practicing speeches for an audience that would never come. This is the trap. We think that feeling ready is a prerequisite for action. We've been conditioned to believe that confidence comes first, then action follows, but it's backwards. Action creates confidence. Every time you do something despite being afraid, you build the muscle of courage. Every time you move forward despite uncertainty, you expand your capacity for faith. Your mind is designed to protect you. That's its primary function, survival. And survival favors caution. Survival says wait, analyze, prepare more, avoid risk. But growth requires the opposite. Growth requires you to override your survival instinct. Growth requires you to tell your mind, I hear your concerns, but we're moving anyway. This is what I mean by forcing yourself to take action. It's not about being reckless. It's not about moving without wisdom. It's about refusing to let fear disguise itself as prudence. It's about recognizing when your caution has become a cage. I've seen people with PhDs working minimum wage jobs, not because opportunities don't exist, but because they've analyzed themselves into paralysis. I've seen people with incredible talents die with their music still in them, not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked the courage to be imperfect in public. I've seen people remain in toxic relationships for decades, not because they don't know better, but because the familiar misery feels safer than the unknown possibility. The cost of inaction is always greater than we calculate. We count the obvious cost, the lost income, the missed opportunity, the delayed dream, but we rarely count the invisible costs, the erosion of self-respect, the death of self-trust, the slow suffocation of our spirit. Every time you fail to act on what you know you should do, you send a message to yourself, I can't trust me. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your own credibility in your own eyes. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you train yourself to be small. But the opposite is also true. Every time you do what you're afraid to do, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, you build unshakable self-trust. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you expand into a larger version of yourself. There's a principle that governs the universe. It's not complicated, but it's absolute. Things in motion tend to stay in motion. Things at rest tend to stay at rest. This applies to objects and it applies to humans. When you're stuck, getting started is the hardest part. But once you're moving, momentum carries you. Doors begin to open. Resources appear. People show up. Opportunities present themselves. But none of this can happen while you're standing still. The universe responds to movement. Life responds to action. Your destiny responds to decision. I know what you're thinking. But what if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if I don't have what it takes? These are the questions that keep people trapped in mediocrity. These are the questions that sound responsible, but are actually just fear wearing a mask. Here's a better question. What if you succeed? What if you are more ready than you think? What if you discover capabilities you never knew existed? What if the very act of starting unlocks resources that were waiting for your commitment? The people who change the world are not the most talented. They are not the most intelligent. They are not the most prepared. They are the ones who decided that regret was more painful than risk. They are the ones who understood that failure is temporary, but a life unlived is permanent. You see, there's something profoundly liberating about understanding that perfection is not the goal. Completion is the goal. Movement is the goal. Progress, no matter how messy, is the goal. Because in the real world, done is better than perfect. In the real world, imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time. I once encountered a young man who had been writing a book for 11 years. 11 years. He had rewritten the first chapter 43 times. Every time he thought it was ready, he would read something by another author and convince himself his work wasn't good enough. He would attend writing workshops and come home feeling inadequate. He would share excerpts with friends, and if even one person offered a critique, he would go back to the drawing board. His manuscript had become his prison. What started as a passion project had transformed into a monument to his perfectionism. He wasn't writing anymore. He was editing his edits, refining his refinements, polishing what was already gleaming. Then his father died suddenly. Heart attack, no warning, gone in an instant. At the funeral, going through his father's belongings, he found journals, dozens of journals filled with his father's thoughts, dreams, observations about life, beautiful writing, profound insights, stories that would have touched thousands of lives, but his father had never shared them. He too had been waiting for the perfect time, the perfect publisher, the perfect circumstances. That moment shattered something in the young man. He realized he was following the exact same pattern. He was so busy perfecting his message that the people who needed to hear it were suffering in silence. He was so concerned about literary excellence that he had forgotten why he started writing in the first place. To help people, to share truth, to make a difference. He published that book 3 months later. It wasn't perfect. Critics found flaws. Some reviews were harsh. But you know what else happened? Letters started arriving. Emails from strangers telling him how his words had given them hope. Messages from people saying his book had come at exactly the right moment in their lives. One woman wrote that his chapter on forgiveness had saved her marriage. One man wrote that his book had given him the courage to start a business he'd been dreaming about for years. The book that would have been perfect after 11 more years of editing wouldn't have reached those people in time. The imperfect book that existed in the world changed lives. The perfect book that existed only in his mind changed nothing. This is the mathematics of action. An imperfect attempt that exists in reality is infinitely more valuable than a perfect plan that exists only in theory. The world doesn't need your perfection. The world needs your participation. Your community doesn't need you to have all the answers. It needs you to show up with whatever answers you have. There's a resistance that lives inside all of us. It's the voice that says not yet. It's the feeling that says tomorrow. It's the fear that masquerades as wisdom. This resistance is cunning. It doesn't tell you to give up on your dreams. That would be too obvious. Instead, it tells you to wait just a little longer, just until conditions are better, just until you are more prepared. But here's what I've learned about waiting. It's a trap that tightens with time. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. The longer you delay, the more reasons you find to delay further. Procrastination compounds. Fear multiplies. And before you know it, years have passed and you're still standing in the same place, still waiting for a sign, still preparing for a moment that never arrives. I want to tell you about something that happened in a village I visited years ago. There was a drought, severe, devastating. The crops were dying. The wells were drying up. The people were desperate. They gathered for prayer, crying out for rain, begging for intervention. After the prayer meeting, an old farmer stood up and said something that stunned everyone. We've prayed for rain. That's good. But while we're waiting for the rain, we need to prepare our fields. We need to clear the rocks, turn the soil, prepare the ground, because when the rain comes, we need to be ready to plant. Most people thought he was crazy. Why waste energy preparing fields when there's no rain? Why walk when there's no guarantee? But the old farmer understood something profound. Faith without corresponding action is dead. You don't wait for the blessing and then prepare. You prepare, and your preparation becomes a magnet for the blessing. He spent weeks in the scorching heat working his field. His neighbors mocked him. They called him foolish. They said he was wasting his energy. But he continued. He removed rocks. He tilled the soil. He prepared irrigation channels. He acted as if the rain was already on his way. And then it rained. When the skies finally opened, everyone scrambled to prepare their fields. But by the time they cleared the rocks and prepared the soil, the optimal planting season had passed. The old farmer, his field was ready. He planted immediately. That season, while others struggled, his harvest was abundant. The miracle didn't happen because he was special. The miracle happened because he married faith with action. He didn't wait for circumstances to change. He changed himself in anticipation of changed circumstances. This is what it means to force yourself to take action. It means you don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for inspiration. You don't wait for permission. You move with whatever you have, wherever you are. Right now, your life is not going to change because of some external event. It's not going to change because the economy improves, or because you get older, or because someone discovers you. Your life changes when you decide it changes. Your situation shifts when you shift. Your circumstances transform when you transform. I've watched people stay in jobs they hate for 20 years, always talking about leaving, always planning their exit, but never actually exiting. Why? Because they are waiting for the perfect next opportunity. They are waiting for a guarantee. They are waiting for a safety net so strong that risk disappears entirely. But here's the reality. There are no guarantees. There are no risk-free paths to anywhere worth going. Every significant decision in life requires a leap of faith. Every transformation requires you to let go of what you know, to grab hold of what you hope for. There was a woman who worked as an accountant in a firm for 18 years. She was excellent at her job, but she was miserable. Her real passion was interior design. She had an eye for it, a natural gift. She would redesign her friends' homes for free and they would be transformed. Everyone told her she should start a business, but she was paralyzed by fear. She had a stable salary. She had benefits. She had security. Starting a business meant giving all of that up. What if she failed? What if clients didn't come? What if she couldn't pay her bills? So she stayed in her cubicle crunching numbers, dying a little bit every day. Then she was laid off. The company downsized. After 18 years of loyalty, she received a severance package and a thank you card. Just like that, the security she had sacrificed her dreams to maintain vanished in an afternoon. She could have been devastated. She could have spiraled into depression, but something different happened. She felt liberated. The decision she had been too afraid to make had been made for her. The universe had pushed her out of the nest. She used her severance to take a 3-month intensive course in interior design. She created a portfolio. She started reaching out to potential clients. The first 6 months were terrifying. Money was tight. Clients were few. There were moments she questioned everything, but she pushed through. She forced herself to make cold calls, even when her hands shook. She forced herself to attend networking events, even when she felt like an imposter. She forced herself to post her work on social media, even when she feared criticism. Within a year, she had more clients than she could handle. Within 2 years, she had hired 3 assistants. Within 5 years, her design firm had worked on projects in multiple cities. And here's what she told me with tears in her eyes. Getting laid off was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because I wanted it, but because it forced me to do what I should have done years ago. I wasted 18 years being safe when I could have been alive. Do you hear what she's saying? She's not celebrating the layoff. She's recognizing that sometimes we need pressure to push us into action. But here's my question to you. Why wait for pressure? Why wait for a crisis? Why wait for circumstances to force you when you can choose to force yourself? See, most people operate on a reactive basis. They wait until their health fails before they start exercising. They wait until their marriage is on the brink of collapse before they start working on it. They wait until they are fired before they start developing new skills. They wait until opportunity has passed before they recognize it was there. But successful people, people who actually build the lives they dream about, they operate proactively. They don't wait for problems to force solutions. They take action while action is still a choice. They move while movement is still optional. They decide before decision becomes desperation. There's a window that exists in every situation, a window of opportunity, a window of optimal timing. That window doesn't stay open forever. It opens, it remains accessible for a season, and then it closes. The tragedy is not that the window closes. The tragedy is that most people spend the entire time the window is open, standing on the other side, building up courage to climb through. Your gifts have an expiration date, not because they disappear, but because the season for them shifts. The idea that's burning in you right now, someone else might have that same idea. The opportunity that's in front of you, it won't wait indefinitely. The relationship that could change your life, timing matters. I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm not telling you to move without wisdom. But I am telling you that wisdom without action is just sophisticated stagnation. I'm telling you that at some point you have to stop gathering information and start applying it. At some point you have to stop studying the map and start walking the path. Here's what forcing yourself to take action looks like practically. It means you start the business with your savings, even though the website isn't perfect. It means you have the difficult conversation today, even though you don't have the perfect words. It means you submit the application, even though you don't meet every qualification. It means you publish the content, even though it's not as polished as you wanted. It means you make the first move, even though you might get rejected. It means you stop waiting for permission that's never coming, and you give yourself permission. It means you stop waiting to feel brave, and you act despite the fear. It means you stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you make this moment perfect by choosing to move in it. Every person who has ever achieved anything significant has had to make this choice. Every entrepreneur who built something from nothing had to take the first step before they knew where the staircase led. Every artist who created something beautiful had to make the first mark on the blank canvas. Every leader who changed their community had to speak the first word before they knew who would listen. The action comes first. The results follow. The courage comes from doing, not from feeling ready to do. Your confidence will meet you in the arena, not in the preparation room. So I'm asking you today, what are you waiting for? What action have you been postponing? What decision have you been avoiding? What step do you know you need to take but keep delaying? Whatever it is, understand this. Tomorrow is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of today. Next week is a fantasy we use to escape the responsibility of now. Some days where dreams go to die quietly, slowly, without anyone noticing, the time is now. Not because the conditions are perfect, not because you are completely ready, not because failure is impossible. The time is now because time is all we have. And every moment you delay is a moment you're choosing comfort over destiny. Force yourself. Push yourself. Demand more from yourself than circumstances demand. Move when everything in you wants to stay still. Speak when fear wants you to be silent. Act when doubt wants you to wait. Because on the other side of that action, that terrifying, uncomfortable, uncertain action is the version of you that you've been dreaming about becoming. That person doesn't emerge from planning. They emerge from doing. They emerge from trying and failing and trying again. They emerge from the decision to stop waiting and start moving. Your life is waiting for you to claim it. Your destiny is waiting for you to pursue it. Your purpose is waiting for you to walk in it. But none of it will happen automatically. None of it will happen because you deserve it, or because you're talented, or because you've waited long enough. It will happen because you forced yourself to take action. Today, right now, in this moment. Not when you feel ready, but because you decided that waiting was no longer an option, and that the cost of staying the same had become greater than the risk of change. Force yourself and watch everything change.